Welcome to Hack Your Happiness.
This is what's super fun about kindness is it turns out it's not just receiving kindness and it's not just giving kindness, it's also observing kindness. All those parties have a benefit.
Are you a teen or adult looking for more happiness in every day and ways to connect with people in your life?
You've come to the right place. Hack Your Happiness is a podcast designed to bring you the behind the scenes of what brings iconic individuals happiness, plus their life hacks.
I'm Mercedes.
And I'm Anastasia.
And we're the two teens behind Small Bits of Happiness.
We're interviewing Olympic athletes, entrepreneurs, celebrities, and more.
Throughout all of our episodes, you'll find great conversations, hacks that you can take away and try in your life, inspiration, as well as unique and surprising insights. Today, we are so excited to speak with Dr. Kelli Harding. Kelli aims to make the world a kinder and healthier place for all. She is a psychiatrist based in New York City and an expert in mind, body, health, and medicine, known for making complex scientific research understandable to general audiences. Dr. Harding is an assistant clinical professor of psychiatry at Columbia University's Villagros College of Physicians. She's also the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Rabbit Effect: Live Longer, Happier, and Healthier with the Groundbreaking Science of Kindness. Dr. Harding has appeared frequently on media outlets such as Today, Good Morning America, BBC, The New York Times, The Washington Post, Oprah Magazine, and more. In 2023, she co-founded Our Kind of Club, a global community that promotes positive social connection and interaction with the science of kindness. Dr. Harding lives in New York City with her husband and their 3 sons, a 10th grader, an 8th grader, and a 5th grader. And of course, their rescue dog, Athena. Welcome, Kelli.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a joy to be on here, and I just love what you're doing with this podcast, so I'm honored to be a part of it.
Oh my gosh, we are so honored to have you with us here today. We're so excited, and I'm so excited to learn all about kindness and its effects on our body and on our happiness. So you're a very successful professor, doctor, author, but take us back to the beginning. How did your journey begin?
So I pretty early on started to, I just always loved helping people. And I suspect both of you and for our listeners also felt that way. And I wasn't exactly sure how that was going to, come about as like a career or a field of study, but I was always sort of curious about how the human body worked. And even very early on, I was kind of interested in like how disease processes worked, how we could keep people healthy. I had an aunt and an uncle who were both physicians, and they would talk about their cases sometimes, not saying anything in detail, but just sort of enough that it always caught my interest. And then I actually was studying to be a journalist in college. I wasn't going to do medicine at all. And I had a situation where in one of my classes, there was a person who got very sick very fast. And I realized I really wanted to be the person to step up and help in that situation. And I didn't have the skills. So I started to actually diverge from that path and start to learn more about like, what could I do? And I realized I just totally loved medicine. And so ever since then, medicine's kind of a long road, but it's such a worthwhile one. It's a really wonderful career.
So many people talk about how they start out doing something completely different and then, they learn and they grow and they find that what they really want to do is something completely different, and it's a little bit of a leap, but you just turn out loving it. And I feel like that is just so iconic, so amazing.
And I really, really love that you saw a need and you really wanted to help that person. And I just think that's so like kind. And I love that part of your story of how you just wanted to help them, and that's led to this incredible career where you've helped so many people. So did you immediately decide that you wanted to go into psychiatry once you kind of took that new route?
Well, so the pathway for people who are listening that might be interested in medicine, the pathway is you do college and then you do medical school and then you pick a specialty. And so first thing I had to decide I wanted to go to med school, and it's usually about 12 classes or so you've got to take as a prerequisite. So I just started taking science classes and was really, really enjoying them. And then And then from there, started like volunteering in clinics and doing other things to just double check that I really enjoyed it in hospital emergency rooms. And sure enough, I really liked it. And I think that's the thing, that inner drive of just feeling like this is the right path, like kind of learning to notice what you feel excited and interested and curious about, and like kind of following that direction. If I think if I think if I could go back in time, actually, that's the kind of thing that I would tell my younger self, is to like really learn to develop that inner intuition as to like what's exciting for you, and to follow that. So yeah, so that's how I got through up to med school. And then when it came to psychiatry, I was actually really interested in the mind-body connection. And I think what's really exciting and what you're doing here is we now know so much more about it than when I was starting med school. And that includes everything about like how our thoughts affect our body, and also how our body can affect our thoughts, and how all of that can be impacted by, you know, all the things that are happening in our social world too. So yeah, so I studied psychiatry. I studied just what would be sort of general medicine. And then I also studied public health, because I was trying to figure out like how all these things came together. And then would you like to hear the most ironic part?
Of course.
So as I started working on the rabbit effect, I realized I was also in some ways becoming a journalist again. So because I think there's a way for all your interests to kind of come together. You just have to stay creative. And the world that you're growing up in right now, there's going to be so many different options that you can piece together different interests and find your path. So just really excited for everybody who's listening.
That is incredible. And you're right, it is such an exciting time. So many different emerging trends.
For sure.
So many new things are currently on the horizons. And I absolutely love that bit that you said about how, you know, you kind of came full circle. You had this whole new passion and all these degrees and knowledge in being a doctor and a psychiatrist, but you also kind of started going back to your initial interests in journalism and in writing. And I think it's so true. We don't have to say, hey, I'm going to completely leave and ditch this interest of mine. Like we can have all of our interests, we can follow our passions, and it's not an end all be all. And I really love that.
Yeah,
it's so important to remember.
Totally. Your journey has been so inspiring, and clearly you went through a lot of amazing different things. What do you think your biggest challenge has been on this journey?
And how did you overcome it?
Yeah.
Ooh, what a good question. Well, there are a couple things. I since I was sort of shifting gears, I wasn't sort of confident in the sense that, you know, would I be good in an area that was a little bit different? And, you know, some of my friends that were pre-med or knew they wanted to go to med school knew from, like, they were determined to do that from when they were really little. And so I knew I was always interested in medicine, but it wasn't sort of the field I thought I was going to be pursuing. And so I think it was almost like an internal thing, like giving myself permission to try things out and try new things and just sort of see what happened, and also get support, like in areas like, maybe because I hadn't done as many, you know, chemistry classes, that allowing myself to get some help when I needed it. And I think that sort of like being willing to try and make mistakes actually can be a really positive thing. So I think it's almost like my biggest challenge was my mindset, that giving myself permission to try something new.
It's
For
so
sure.
funny how we can be our own greatest
Yeah.
challenge. Like the biggest thing standing in our own way can be ourselves sometimes. And when we give, like you said, once we give ourselves that permission to try something different, to try something new, we can really skyrocket and do incredible things. So, you know, just give yourself permission to make mistakes, and give yourself permission to maybe mess up and learn from it. And it's truly so incredible what you can achieve.
I agree. I love how you said that what you needed to do was just, you know, accept the fact you were going to try something else. You just needed permission to, you know, get out of your comfort zone. And I just feel like that's so important. And sometimes you just need to try something, and you persevered through, even though, you know, you didn't have as many chemistry classes as some other people. That's totally okay. You just kept going. I think that really shows that even though some other people may be maybe a little bit more experienced than you, that does not mean that you can't do it.
And also, I think sometimes we compare ourselves to others and we say, oh, they know more. I shouldn't even try, because how can I even compete with somebody who's been interested in this for far longer, or who's been learning about this or in this field for far longer? But just I think it's all about how we're all on our own separate journeys, and just follow through on your journey and don't focus on other people's journeys, because that's their thing and we got to do our own thing. So I am so excited to learn.
I love that, by the way. It's so true. Like if you can just think about like just eyes on what interests you, so, and not compare.
Totally, thank you. So about your book, The Rabbit Effect, how did you fall into the rabbit hole of learning about rabbits? Tell us more about the book. Tell us more about the premise about your book.
Sure. So the title comes from this study that was done actually back in the 1970s. It was an old study, and it was way like, it was, what I love about it, it was actually kind of a mistake. Like what happened is they were doing a study looking at how diet impacted heart health, because they didn't really know the details around that at the time. And we've learned a lot about that since. So there was this lovely researcher named Dr. Robert Neeram who designed a very straightforward experiment. And what he did is he basically gave these genetically identical rabbits this very high fat diet. And he thought that all the rabbits would have the same health outcomes. And what he found is that one of the groups of rabbits had like a really different, better health outcome than the others, like a 60% difference. So like vastly different. And he thought it was a mistake. And so he was trying to figure out what was going on. Everything checked out. And then finally he realized that all the rabbits that did better were under the care of one particular researcher. And her name was Marina Levesque, and she wasn't just feeding the rabbit. She was actually picking up the rabbit. She was petting the rabbit. She was talking to the rabbit. She was really just giving them love and kindness. And much to Dr. Neeram's credit, he thought, because at the time it was a really radical idea. He thought, like, could it be that somehow how these rabbits are getting treated is actually changing their biology? Because this is not how we understood biology worked at the time. And so, so anyhow, he repeated the experiment and very tightly controlled conditions, like doing everything super scientific. And he got the exact same results, and he published it in the journal Science, which is a super prestigious journal. And, that was like 40 plus years ago. And so he also ended up, so that was just like the beginning of like decades of data that basically showed that how we're treated in our social world impacts our health really profoundly. And so I thought this was like a really big, interesting story that's not just that one study, but like many, many studies in all the different areas of our lives, from like our homes to our schools to our neighborhoods, like, and greater society, that really matters. And so I thought, like, I got to tell this story. So that's what I decided to do.
I absolutely love that. That is such an important and incredible story to tell. So thank you for sharing that and for writing a book on it, because that's amazing how something as simple as treating an animal with kindness can not even just like a little,
like 60%
significantly boost its health. And that's amazing, the effects that kindness, something so simple and
it
free
shows
and effortless,
and the environment that you're in. If you're in a positive, uplifting environment with people who love and care and support and are kind to you, you're able to just be so much better.
And it also shows how you can affect those around you by being kind to your friends and to your family and your peers. You can help them not just a little bit. You can't just make your day, you make their day. You can literally make them have a better lifestyle.
Exactly.
Which is so incredible.
So speaking on how kindness can, really affect us positively, is it being kind to yourself, being kind to others, or other people being kind to you? What benefits you the most?
And I'm going to add another category into there too. So I think this is what's super fun about kindness, is it turns out it's not just receiving kindness and it's not just giving kindness, it's also observing kindness. It turns out all those parties have a benefit. And so I think what's really great about that, though, is it's such a lovely model of connection, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're on the giving, the receiving end, or you're witnessing it, all parties benefit. And the other thing that's fun about that is when we see acts of kindness, we're more likely to be kind to other people. So I think for the people listening, just know that you really make a difference, that when you choose to do a kind act or the kind thing in a tough moment, actually the people who are watching are also benefiting. It's not just you and the recipient too. So that's really powerful because, it's like you don't have to be, like the president or famous or anything. You can just be you and you can make a real difference in the world.
It's remarkable, like the ripple effect. Like not only when you are kind to someone, you feel good, they feel good, but the people in your environment feel good. It's incredible and so inspiring, I think, how we can like affect our environment, because I think oftentimes as teens we feel like we have so little purpose, so little to give to this world. We're just kind of getting started, getting our things sorted and figured out, but really recognizing we can help so many people in such a significant way is so like motivational. It gives us a purpose. It gives us a reason to get up in the morning and to do something kind for those in our life.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think that, even just watching someone be kind to someone else and how that can affect you as well, I never really thought about that. And I just think that shows that, every little action that you do matters and it affects so many more people than you would think.
Exactly. So as teens, sometimes we can get really frustrated. We have a lot of emotions, hormonal changes, different things happening. Maybe our friendships are going a little haywire or we're stressed about school. Whatever it is, it can be difficult to be kind to those around us, even when we know that there's so many incredible health benefits to everyone involved. So what are your top 3 tips for teens to be kinder to others?
Well, I'm smiling because I'm thinking it's so true, right? Like you can know what the right thing to do is, but then doing it is often hard. So there are ways, and also I want to just like make it clear there. It's not like they're kind people and unkind people. Like we're all human beings and we all have our moments. And so one of the things that has been shown to be very helpful for people and being kinder is to pause for a minute. So like if you can even just for like a couple seconds, give yourself a little pause, that's going to help you kind of like it's actually makes a lot of brain sense because you kind of move out of your more like primitive reactive brain and more into your frontal cortex where you're able to like reason a little bit and put some like thought and respond and not react, that kind of thing. So the pause would be key. I actually heard a really cute acronym for it, PBS, which is pause, breathe, and smile. So when you're finding yourself feeling a little tense and you're thinking about saying something, like that's not a bad technique. I've tried it out. It works.
It's so simple, something just to tell yourself like, hey, I'm feeling really like a lot of pent up energy, but I shouldn't take
pause, breathe, and smile. I love that so much. I'm for sure going to be trying that one out.
Yes, it's such a great way, like when you're just like feeling like in that moment, just need something to snap out of that angry
and it's so simple, like it's so easy to remember.
Yes, I love that. And the acronyms are so amazing
I love
for that exact reason.
I love using acronyms. So going back to a little bit more on the physical health side of kindness, what is the most significant effect that being kind, observing kind, and receiving kindness, what's the most significant physical effect that there is?
I mean, the reality is like it's pretty incredible because it cuts across the board. So it's everything from like, lower rates of feeling anxiety and depression to better brain health, particularly. So for those of you listening, like be kind to the people you live with too, because it can actually help them also live longer, happier as well. Parents, grandparents, teachers, all of it really, because we're all impacted by each other. And then of course the studies show basically all the things related to kindness, which can lower blood pressure and all that too, which for adults is a big deal. But it actually literally shows that people live longer it's the lower, people sometimes can have early deaths that potentially could be prevented by more kindness and connection that comes with it. Because ultimately, I think kindness comes down to connection. Because if you kind of think about those moments where you're feeling where somebody's kind to you, you often feel like seen and valued and appreciated. And that's the language of connection and love and friendship. And like that really, really makes a difference to our health. And there's like mountains of data that show that now.
Wow.
So no, it matters.
Talk about a happiness hack. Like, that is incredible. The amount of power that something so simple has in everyone's life. And I think you're so right with the fact that
Yeah.
it's all boils down to that connection, and especially positive connection. We don't want to be surrounding ourselves with people who are unkind to us or unkind environment or who make us feel poorly of ourselves.
Exactly, and having that kind of connection, and I think that can also lead to better relationships with people and having a connection of trust as well, because you feel seen and you feel like you can actually tell that person something and they'll understand.
Yes. So do you have any advice on how to find a positive connection, like how to find an environment where you'll be surrounded by people who are kind and where you can make those connections of positivity and kindness?
Find a positive connection. Well, just know that you have an influence, and there are actually studies that show this. You help create the environment around you. You're not just like passively showing up in it. So actually, like your acts of kindness change the dynamic of the people around you. So just to be aware of that, and it really does make a difference. I think when it comes to sort of thinking about feeling a sense of connection and belonging, which is critical for every human being, you kind of want to think a little bit diverse. Like, think about like schools, your home, what's happening there, like maybe like family that's extended or friends that are extended in other places. And then also like what are activities in your community you could do? Like if there's something that you're passionate about or you feel a sense of purpose about, like volunteering is an incredible way to bring more kindness into the world. And actually, volunteering is one of those like super wins, because it turns out people who volunteer live longer. So you can also like bring along a family member, like, try to make it as much of a community event as possible. But I think the thing is sometimes I see teens especially kind of put all their eggs in one basket. Like it's kind of nice to diversify a little bit and make sure you've got friend groups that are, in different areas of your life in case, things go south.
Yeah,
So-
for sure. I mean, I feel like a lot of the times, we see our friends and we're like, that's it. We just need to hang out with them and I'll be happy because I love them. It's really great to have those really close friends. But, sometimes something goes wrong, a rumor comes out.
Or sometimes people
and-
move or do
exactly.
different things. in their
Or
life.
maybe you just grow apart and now you just don't have a support network. Now that connection that once was there is gone and you don't really remember how to connect again because it was such a long time ago that just, I think constantly talking to people, not necessarily even making, having huge friend groups being super popular, but just, constantly talking to people, making small connections here and there. They're being kind and positive. It's just such a great way to also just not even make more friends, but just feel less alone, because in case of something that happens, people are much more willing to welcome you in because they know that you're positive and there is a connection.
Exactly, and they've probably witnessed your kindness too.
Yeah, exactly.
People notice, and it makes a difference. The other thing is, you're right. So and the data totally backs that up. Like there's something called weak ties. So that's like people who maybe aren't your best friends, but you like chat with them, like at the coffee shop or, at an after school club or volunteering or something. Like those weak ties actually boost our health and well-being too. So like, I don't know, I'm kind of like a shy introverted person generally, but like I've tried to make a point knowing this to like talk with people a little bit more and like, just try a little bit more. People don't always respond, but you can like give it a try and see how it goes. Even saying hi to like, like somebody you pass in the hallway at school, or like making eye contact and smiling, like makes a difference. So you can try it out and just know that like sometimes if you don't get a response, that's okay too. That's kind of like par for the course.
Absolutely. I love that because I think that oftentimes there's such a big difference, and we sometimes as teenagers may struggle with separating this, but there's a difference between being friends and being friendly, and we can have our close circle of friends or our multiple different areas where we have people who we're friends with, but we can be friendly to anybody. And just because you're friends with someone doesn't mean that you're suddenly amazingly close best friends. It just means that you're having a social connection and you're spreading kindness and positivity and just making someone's day better. And just because somebody maybe doesn't return that positive energy does not mean that it's anything against you, especially if you don't know them well. You never know what people are going through. Maybe they didn't hear you. Maybe they're just having a really, really tough day today, and they're not going to smile because there's something totally else happening behind the scenes. And I just think that's an incredible little way to sprinkle some more happiness and some more kindness into your day and those around you.
For sure. I mean, this is going to be taking a little bit more of like a twist in the conversation, but what do you think are the most common misconceptions and myths when it comes to kindness, and what is the truth and the science behind it?
Oh yeah. So probably the biggest one is that like people who are kind are like weak or something, but actually well, there are a couple things with that. Kindness actually is a strength because it's really hard when somebody is being unkind to respond with kindness and compassion, right? So it actually is. And when you look at some of the greatest leaders out there, they use that model of kindness. Or the people that you know in your life that you respect are often using that model too. So it's underappreciated in that sense. And then the other thing is, studies show that basically people are better liked who are kind. So smiling, asking questions, listening, those are all parts of kindness. And actually, it also boosts other people feeling positively and warm about you too, which is kind of a nice thing. So, there are always going to be people that are like, a little cynical about things. And I would say just in general, they might be having a hard time with something else in their life, and it might not be about you or the kindness.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to remember that just because somebody treats us a certain way, even if it's wrong, I mean, just because they're going through something doesn't excuse that action, but it's important to keep in mind that not everything is always against you or to do with you or because of you, and maybe just not take things so personally, because it can be so difficult to sit there and be like, oh, they're looking at me that way because they really hate me, don't they? And they didn't smile at me because I did something wrong to them, or they don't want to talk with me right now, even though like we're in school and we're doing work, because they find me boring or something like that. Like, not everything's against you. They have their own agenda, they have their own goals, and they also have their own situations, and you may know
Totally.
nothing about it, and that's okay.
And I love how you talked about that kindness is actually like a strength, because it does take a lot of strength to be kind, because who knows, maybe, when you're talking to the barista and trying to compliment them, they might not be in the best mood, and when you're doing that, maybe it becomes kind of awkward. But just having the courage and strength to do it again and again is just so powerful, because you never know the response of the other person, but all that you know is that you tried, that you are spreading positivity, and that you're probably positively affecting other people too, because I'm sure they see it as well, even though the other person on the other end isn't receiving it as well.
I love that so much because I think that's a really great lesson. And also something else I wish I knew when I was your age is, you can't control what happens. You can't control people's reactions and responses, but you can always control your own. And so, and that can really change the outcome of a situation, to try to add like a little bit of understanding to whatever's happening.
Totally. I think we feel out of control sometimes in general. We're like, oh, I can't control anything. I feel lost and like I have no way to influence anything around me. But the reality is we can control ourselves, and we need to remember that and embrace that. So on the note of kindness and of what it has to do with ourselves, we've discussed how kindness affects those around us and affects the people that we're showing kindness to. But sometimes as teens, we're really hard on ourselves. And despite knowing the fact that being kind to ourselves is important, it can be difficult. So what would be your top hack for a teenager who's struggling to be kind to themselves?
Gosh, what a wonderful question. Because I think there are probably a lot of people, and maybe even people that are listening to this, that they find it's easier to be kind to others than it might be to be kind to themselves. And a lot of grown-ups actually struggle with this too. So I think it's the thing that's really interesting about this is that, you know, again, because you can only control sort of like your inner emotional state, and paying attention to how you're feeling, and the emotions you're experiencing. I think that's a really good start to sort of kindness. And so like noticing if you're experiencing loneliness or you're feeling not great about yourself, like kind of paying attention to that. And then, you know, oftentimes when we feel like that, that's when we least feel like reaching out to someone who we know and trust. But that's actually probably, the evidence suggests that that's exactly the time to try to connect. So maybe it's like a trusted, you know, like a sibling, that like the two of you there, or, you know, a parent or a caregiver or a cousin or a teacher or somebody who you know and can trust, that that you know that they've got your back. Um, so just realizing there's always help, and there's always someone out there to talk to you, and helpers are everywhere. Um, that would be sort of one thing. And then the other thing is just like giving yourself permission to also recognize your own needs, and that those needs are important too, and to validate that. I'm curious, in your experience, what have you found helps people be kind to themselves?
Yeah, I think what you said there about downtime, taking time for
Yeah.
yourself is so important. Sometimes I think we live in this type of world and culture where it's like go, go, go. If you're not working or studying or doing something, moving, thinking, then you are being unproductive and you're lazy and you're wasting your day and your time. But that's so untrue, because first of all, downtime contributes to our productivity, which we talk about quite a bit. But also, like, it's time to be with yourself, and it's time to kind of, that you like maybe set aside to just do what you enjoy. And I think that's totally a form of kindness to yourself and a
sure.
form of self-care. It's like, if you enjoy reading a book, then read that book. If you enjoy taking a warm bath or a warm shower, do that. If you enjoy going for a 30-minute hike or bike ride, go for it. And it's just about like doing what's best for you, and maybe that means somebody has to wait or something's put on hold, but you have to prioritize being kind to yourself, just like you would prioritize being kind to others.
I think also another really great hack is by, you know, the way that you really think to yourself, or the way you like address yourself almost, because oftentimes when you're mad at yourself, you're like, oh my gosh, you're so stupid, and you use like these derogatory terms towards yourself, which also is like a form of bullying, like, because oftentimes if that's something that another person could get in trouble for and that could hurt you, what's the difference between you doing it to yourself? So just being kind with yourself and using kinder words, and, you know, when you're angry, just softening almost like your inner thought voice, and just a little bit more grace. I feel like that also really helps with being a bit more kind to yourself.
Like talking to yourself like you would talk to your good friend, right?
You wouldn't call your friend, oh my gosh, you're so stupid, after, you know, you don't do as well as on a math test. You tell them, it's okay, there's always next time, and you'll figure a way out, talk to a teacher,
Yes, and
etc.
always seeking help is such an important thing, and remembering that you're not weak for asking for help or asking
Exactly.
for advice. It's in fact a form of strength that you're able to get out there and do something to help yourself. It's not a form of weakness in any way.
Exactly. So this is again a little bit of a twist on the conversation. What do you enjoy doing to spread a little bit of kindness?
I'm going to give you a couple of different options. So a really fast way, if you're feeling kind of down, and the data shows it and it really works in practice, is if you're not feeling great, think of whatever situation you're in, and is there something kind I could do? Like, it could just be like, you know, checking in with a friend. It could be like doing something nice, like, you know, like complimenting one of your parents, or like, you know, like even writing like a nice note to somebody, like a little act of gratitude. Like, all of those are sort of like immediate mood boosters. And so, or like bringing a friend a cookie, or like whatever it is. It doesn't have to be big, but that little act of kindness, like I find like instantly gets me in a better mood. The other thing I would just say is, so I started this after doing some of the research, is really paying attention to like the people that I love in my life, like giving them hugs. And so, like, you know, you can ask permission, but like, like, for like your parents, that makes a really big difference, I bet, if you give them a hug, if you're comfortable with that, or someone that you really matters. So like I have 3 kids, so every day I make a point of making sure I hug those boys, and just, they're 16, 14, and 12 now, but I still do it every single day because there's just something so nice about like knowing that, you've got that like physical connection too.
For sure. I mean, I feel like
Isn't it oxytocin? Like that's the happy hormone that's released when you hug somebody. And
Totally. And my other third one, I just have to throw it in, is I love to dance. So like if I'm in a bad mood, or or in the mornings, like to get in a good mood to start your day, I'll just like pop on some dance music. So
I love that. Like
think
while
that's
you
so
get
amazing.
ready for the day, just have like a positive tone that you set and like just feel good. I love how that's
Exactly.
like being kind, how you combined being kind with others and hugging your kids, writing a sweet note or message, as well as just being kind to yourself and dancing, because that's what you love doing.
I think that that's so important. Doing something for yourself and doing something that you love, and doing some moves that makes you feel happy. And especially, I love how you talked about hugging your kids. I feel like there's just this sense of like physical support that comes with hugging, because there's totally like emotional support, and being able to support someone through your words is so important. But I think that sometimes being able just to hug someone and show that you care about them, that you love them, is just such an amazing and almost like underrated way of showing kindness and your love and your gratitude for someone.
yeah, no, it's true. Like it's important. I think sometimes that when you're a teen too, you're kind of like a little bit more standoffish. And so anyway, I would say consider hugging someone you love in your life. And it can also be a pet, like, like spending time with your dog. That's also like, or your cat, or any animal you've got, like really also has been shown to be like help you feel calm and less anxious and all of that stuff. So
Our pets are such a great little source of comfort. They never say anything
Exactly.
rude. They're just there, and they're very loving. So I love that little tip.
Yeah, my mom, she says that our dog Coco is her favorite child because she never talks back. And
She's very
Coco's
easy.
always like, she follows her around, and like I think for sure Coco is the favorite child.
Yeah, even though our mom won't admit it, I think it's true sometimes.
I think so, too.
Sometimes at least.
Not always.
funny. I joke about that too with my kids. So, and that she's definitely, Athena is our best listener for sure. So
Most definitely, they just watch you with those cute little puppy eyes. All they ask for is some food and some belly rubs and head pats.
Yes, dogs are very lovable. Even
Yeah.
though sometimes Coco, she loves to sit in the worst of places. She
She-
always sits right in front of the drawers, like right in front of the garbage drawer, and I can
Yeah.
never get it open. I'm like, Coco.
And she just looks at you. She's like,
no, she's not gonna do it.
yeah.
So I get frustrated, but it's okay. But you've been so incredibly successful. You have your book, you're a doctor, and a lot of teens I know are interested or considering potentially going into medicine, and they want to pursue it, but they're a little overwhelmed. They're not 100% certain where they should start. So what is your suggestion as an initial step for teens who want to enter this field?
So first of all, if you're interested in medicine or healthcare, there's so many different ways to be a part of patient care, and to make the world a better place through public health too. So I would say, like, if you're interested in, like, if you find there's one area of interest and you're curious about it, like, take a class, like maybe ask to like learn more about that subject. Now there's so many online options out there. Like you can, take so many additional like sort of didactic courses. The other thing is, what I love about medicine is it's heart and mind, right? Like it's, you're constantly sort of thinking about like, what's the diagnosis? What's the best treatment? How can I best help this person? But it's also a lot of heart, and it's compassion and comparing, and it's compassion and caring for other people. And so what that might mean before you get to like med school is volunteering. It might mean like learning about, like, a lot of hospitals you can volunteer even starting in high school. There are clinics that you can like learn to take blood pressure, do that kind of thing, become an EMT. Like there are tons and tons of different ways to get involved. But I would say do the thing that that you really feel like inside, when you kind of like quiet your mind and check with yourself, that you feel excited about, like you would want to like get up out of bed and go do, because that's the kind of thing you're going to throw yourself into, and not just something because it feels like it would be good on your resume. Oh, also research, like if you are curious about an area, like look and see who's doing research in that, and like try to find out more about it. Maybe they have like a summer program, or you can like learn something more about it. So be curious, step out of your comfort zone, send an email, like ask, try to sign up for stuff. There are also programs out there for kids who are interested, who maybe don't come from a background where they had a lot of people who were physicians in their life, and you can get involved that way. So just look, it's there.
I think that's so important. A lot of times teens might feel helpless. They're like, I want to do this, I have no idea what to do, and I'm just going to sit around, and once I graduate high school, I'll just figure it out. But I think the best way to know what you're actually passionate and interested in is exactly like you said. Put research into it, put in the time and the energy, and actually genuinely invest yourself in it a little bit. And especially with summer coming up pretty soon, a great time to do some research, read some articles, watch some TED Talks, watch some YouTube videos, maybe sign up for a course. Like maybe you could even get credits for it. And even if you can't get credits for it, like in high school, it's still something you can put on your resume to show that you're genuinely interested in a subject. And it's just like all about learning and growing, and maybe it's not the right path for you, and it's good to figure that out before you go to school.
Exactly. I just think that, especially as teens, you have all this freedom because you're not like fully committing to something, but you're also slowly figuring out through trial and error. I think that even realizing that you really don't like something is so much better than not doing it at all. Because now, you can avoid doing something like that, and you can focus all your energy on finding something that you do like. And I think that, again, I love the failure, and not liking something is always something that is a good idea to follow.
Exactly. So oftentimes, like we talked about, there's a lot of pressure for us to constantly be on the go and researching things, and as amazing as it is to follow our interests and our passions, taking downtime is so critical. So what do you like to do every day to take a break and to relax?
Well, it's funny. This is reminding me of your other podcast with Jen Fisher, because who does this work on sort of like taking breaks and the importance to try to avoid burnout. Because I think a real thing right now, particularly when it comes to teen mental health, is a lot of kids feeling really burned out because the grind of school, like this pressure to like get into college and all the things that come with it, let alone like all the social stress. So there's everyone has a little something that they enjoy doing. And so, it can be spending time with other people, but it could also be like if you have like a book you really love to, or type of books. We were talking about reading earlier, like I love to read. And so I'll always take like a little bit of time to listen to something or read something that inspires me. So, and it's just nice because it also reminds you you're not alone. Like there are other people that have gone down these paths and have figured things out too.
Absolutely. What's your favorite book type of genre to read?
So I do read a lot of nonfiction, and I think there's just like so much to learn out there, right? So we were talking about, I just got back from the World Happiness Summit at Wahasu, and I felt like I had all these books that I came back wanting to read. So sort of thinking about some of those, like they can be really fun and uplifting for sure. And I also, since I like science, like I tend to also have like hints of science woven throughout there.
Amazing. I know. I love science-based books. It's like I know how this is true, and there's like a literal explanation to it. So.
I love reading the Malcolm Gladwell books. I find that those are so interesting and in like a manner that you can understand for sure. So what is one piece of advice that you wish you could give your teenage self? I know you touched on this a little bit earlier, but is there anything else that you would want to tell her?
Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be nice to be able to go back in time? So actually, a quote that comes to mind that was something that was said earlier that made me think about this is so it's a quote from my friend Jack Canfield, and it says, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And this idea that things happen, and you can actually try to figure out when something happens, even if it's not what you wanted at the time or it's something really upsetting, like if it's happening for you, that means there's some lesson in there to learn. There's something that's going to make you a better human being, a kinder person, and to kind of look for that. And I like that advice a lot when it feels like things are going off the rails.
We all feel that way sometimes,
Yeah.
don't we? It's just like, what is happening? Why is this happening? Another great one is like, turn why me into try me. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't heard that. I like it.
I think that one is from like a Peloton instructor. I heard
I
on the
think
Peloton
so.
once, and I was like, I like that one.
I think that what you said, I really, really love that. I think it sounds kind of like everything happens for a reason. And I have that kind of motto where, negative things happen all the time. But also, I just feel like you need to use that to understand that there's something to be learned out of it and something even better is going to come your way.
Exactly.
And almost, I think it's like two lyrics of the song, but life is what happens when you when you're trying to do
Other
something.
plans. Actually, that's a John Lennon quote. It's life happens when you're making other plans, and I think about that a lot too, actually. And I think that's the thing. Like you can have like really well laid out plans, and then stuff happens, and truly that's just life. And so, like the more that we can learn to kind of roll with it, to help other people who are having a hard time, help ourselves when we're having a hard time, like the better off we'll be. So. Yeah, that's a really lovely one too.
Love it. We've got some great quotes
I
circulating
know,
around
right?
here. But yes, those are all such important things to keep in mind. And I just love to have like, whenever I'm in a tough spot, I'm having a tough day, I just like to like think of my favorite quotes and they just come to mind. That's why I love finding out what your favorite quotes are. And I guess we got some bonus ones today too. Do you have anything exciting coming up that you'd like to share with us? Goals, events, projects, etc.?
Oh gosh, thanks for asking. I feel like always something in the works. So right now, this Our Kind of Club is something that I'm really, really excited about. I formed it with two friends who I've actually known since I was your age, and so yeah, which is pretty amazing. And so we're on a mission to try to create a kinder, more inclusive world, and so we're doing that through monthly meetings that are virtual and it's open to anybody who's interested in making the world a kinder place. And so we've actually had a lot of teens join. We've had people from all over the world. You can just pop into a meeting and sign up, and we share a story. Each month has a different theme, like education, neighborhood, self-care, relationships, like that kind of thing. And we just talk a little bit about the science of kindness around it, and then we also talk about examples to inspire you. And it's funny because we created this with the idea of helping others, but I have found I really look forward to these like gatherings, and we call them kindness campfires. And the idea is that you feel more uplifted, and when you're feeling good, you're more likely to do good. So you go out in the world and hopefully make a difference, and then come back and tell us about it. So my website is kellihardingmd.com. You can sign up on there to get the newsletters and all that stuff. But so that's one of the things. But I also wanted to say I'm really excited about the project that you're both doing with this podcast and the work that you're doing, because I think, just the more that we can do to support one another's mental health, what you're doing to support teen mental health, because I think the reality is the World Happiness Report just came out, and it showed that teens in particular and young adults are having a hard time. So I think what you're doing is just creating so much good in the world, and you'll probably never know the good it created, but just the fact you're doing it is really a lovely, lovely thing. And just like we were talking about, the ripple effect.
Oh, thank you so much. Your words mean so
we
much.
really appreciate that.
That's so sweet. And your work is absolutely inspiring, and that's why we're so happy that we got to speak to you today.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness, and thank you so much for Kelli to joining us today.
It was so incredible speaking with her. She's so accomplished, so smart, and she has so much to share. And that's why I'm so thrilled that we get to share Kelli's incredible work about the rabbit effect. I just found that so fascinating, how those rabbits benefited and how we as humans can benefit as well. So Anastasia, what's your biggest takeaway from Dr. Kelli Harding today?
I think that just being able to bring kindness can actually be so much easier than you thought. And even if you're in a bad mood, just pull out the PBS, pause, breathe, and smile. I feel like that's so easy to kind of recenter yourself, ground yourself, and bring yourself back, and being able just to be kind, because you never know how far a smile can travel. What about you, Mercedes?
Exactly. Well, my biggest takeaway from Dr. Kelli Harding today would have to be the incredible effect that kindness has not only on those around us, on us, and the person that we're being kind to. I just think it's incredible.
And on top of that, how it's also the people around us.
Yeah.
I was really shocked by that.
That's
one.
the most shocking thing, because I think
know.
we're thinking like, oh yeah, when I'm kind to somebody, obviously they benefit. I feel good as well, but we don't think about the environment. So it's a beautiful, incredible butterfly and ripple effect. So I just think it's so cool. And I also really love how that kind of gives you a purpose. You know, get up in the morning just because you can benefit the overall health and well-being of your environment, regardless of whether it's school, work, extracurriculars, or just well-being at your home.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, please leave us a 5-star review from wherever you're listening. It really helps us out and we really appreciate it.
Also, join our happiness family. We'd love to have you, and it's completely free, and you can do so by following Hack Your Happiness on whichever podcast listening platform you're on now. See you next time!